Hey, Drake here with another episode of the Jamming Signal, basically useless show for useless people. Woohoo! Alright, so today I want to talk to you about StarCitizen, what it is and what it isn't. What it is it's a space sim that's got a lot of money behind it, and what it isn't is what most people seem to think it is. You've got two camps of some of the StarCitizen super fanboys who seem to think that it's going to be, kind of everything in a bag of chips, and then you've got the anti-StarCitizen guys who kind of think the whole thing's a scam. Now, I'm not a super fanboy of it, but I am a pretty heavy backer of it. I love the idea, I love the ships, I love the little world they're creating, but it is taking them a while. Now, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on it taking a while because they basically had to start the project from scratch twice. Most of the people who were early backers like me, I was one of the before it was even a green light of, can we even do this? I was one of the people that, funded it before it was even at the 2 million. At that point, all it was supposed to be was just sort of a update on something like, X-Wing or TIE Fighter or Wing Commander or any of those old space sim games. That's kind of all we were looking for. And then it made a bunch of money. And when it made a bunch of money, they started adding stretch goals and all these sort of things. It became a much bigger thing than it was supposed to be. And so the whole scope changed, the deadline changed. If they had only ever raised the original $2 to $6 million, the game probably would have been done way before now, and it would have been much smaller. It would have been something kind of like, any of those older games. Or maybe something like Elite Dangerous, where it's like, yeah, you have this gigantic procedurally generated universe, but there's no story, it's just sort of go wander. But they basically had to start over because I think what happened was they had the original assets from the original trailer for the thing way back a couple years ago, and I think they wanted to build from that. They said, okay, we built this carrier, we built these fighters, we built a couple of small support ships. We need money to basically flesh out the project and put out a game. And everyone said, yeah. Then when they dumped all this extra money and stretch goals into it, they pretty much had to throw all that stuff out because all of a sudden we're talking about mid-range game money. So, all those sort of indie assets had to go away and then be remade. And then somewhere in the middle of all of that, it got even bigger. Somewhere around I'd say probably somewhere around the point where it hit like that stupid number, like 50 million. They kind of had to start over again because it's sort of like now we're moving from, well-funded indie game to like damn near AAA funding. So, this game has been, the assets, everything they had to do with this, they restarted a couple of times, and they've been sitting there dicking around with CryEngine. I don't know why they're using CryEngine. Nobody really does. CryEngine is a cool engine and everything, but it's a bitch to work with. They actually literally had to hire half of the engineers from Crytek to work on the game just to get the damn engine working. But if they can get it to work right, it does make for a pretty game. So while needlessly difficult, yeah, it's fine. So it's getting to the point in the project now where a lot of people are starting to go, okay, well, it's been a long time. Where is everything? Where, we were kind of promised this epic space sim, and, all we've got really to show for it on the user end is Arena Commander. And, we get the updates all the time. We get the little, videos of what they're working on, and everything seems really cool. It's all very polished looking, it's all very cool looking, but we don't get to play any of it. And that's one of my biggest disappointments with the whole thing was like, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to get early alpha and beta access. And to me, that sort of, meant we're going to get to play the cool, broken gray box game where it's like, yeah, here's what we have so far. I know it's like completely dicked up and unfinished, but what, guess what? you signed up for alpha access, so you get to, play with this broken stuff. And that's kind of what I was hoping for. It was just sort of exploring a lot of, unfinished assets, and that has not happened. They've basically only been releasing kind of the polished parts of the small and broken bits that are out so far. I'm not that mad about it, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I kind of feel a little let down by, being excited about being part of the alpha access, and there's not much alpha to play. And as far as the deadline goes, And as far as there's been a lot of bitching recently about how, it's like, oh, we're spending all this money on, people to make up languages, and they're spending money on celebrity voice actors, and they're spending money on this, that, and the other thing. That was in the stretch goals. That was something they actually specifically raised money for. That was something we wanted. And there's some other people bitching about, oh, well, all these other games have come out. And it's like, yeah, but most of those games that have come out, they're in the same vein. And again, something like Elite Dangerous. And Elite Dangerous is a cool game. I played it. It's a nifty thing. The thing is that for the StarCitizen project, the thing we signed up for, that's not what we signed up for. We didn't sign up for a sandbox game that's just a sandbox game. I guess it would be sort of like what Elite Dangerous is to me when I kind of play it. It reminds me very much of Grand Theft Auto Online without getting Grand Theft Auto 5. Like if you're able to just get GTA Online and not Grand Theft Auto 5, the main campaign, that's it. So that's the entire game. Like that's all Elite Dangerous is. It's just sort of like, here, there's like a little bit of backstory to the game, but there is no overarching story. There's no story arc that you play along. It's just sort of, okay, you're here, you've been let loose on the world, you have a ship, you pick up things, you make money, you go explore, and that's cool, that's fun, I like doing that kind of thing. But the exciting thing about StarCitizen when that project was announced was that here we are with a project where there's going to be a story. There's going to be a very involved universe, and there's going to be specifically a big story campaign, which is Squadron 42, where you have an actual, story arc, beginning to end. It's like, okay, you show up, you get on this ship, this big thing has happened, you have to go deal with it, and there's many missions involved, interacting with, well-written NPCs. That's the game we signed up for. That's the thing that was exciting back when this came out, because they hadn't made a space sim with a story like that for a long time. The last one I remember that was any good was Freelancer, and Freelancer was okay. It was a nice game. It was the only thing that was really kind of balls out annoying about Freelancer is that Freelancer had no joystick controls at all. It was just all mouse controlled, which for a spaceflight game was a little bit confusing and a little disorienting. But once you got used to it, it really wasn't too bad. And StarCitizen, actually, interestingly, StarCitizen you can control with a mouse too. It's kind of touchy and glitchy with a mouse, but it can be done with a mouse and keyboard. Although I would kind of recommend getting a joystick or a gamepad. I still haven't figured out the gamepad with it, but the joystick works fairly well. But yeah, it's one of those projects where a lot of people seem to think, and actually speaking of Freelancer, that's essentially what StarCitizen is shaping up to be. It's shaping up to be basically Freelancer on steroids. And with Freelancer, you had this thing where you had a ship and you run around and there was a main story arc and blah 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 blah. You basically go from planet to planet doing stuff, carrying cargo, shooting out pirates, all that sort of thing. And it was kind of fun, and you'd make enough money to buy a better ship, and then upgrade and kind of upgrade, and just sort of explore the universe. And you could land on planets. You couldn't really do anything on the planets except for pick up new jobs and sell stuff and do whatever. You couldn't really walk around. It was just sort of click on icon and send you to that direction. It was all nice looking. It was all in 3D, but it was you couldn't actually control your character on planet other than just telling you where to go. But for this new game, StarCitizen, it's basically that. It's, you have all these ships, you fly around in space, you make money, buy more ships, you go land places, sell your stuff, pick up stuff. They are adding a lot more, basically something that's different from Freelancer is there's a bigger focus on the first-person dynamic. So the whole game is played essentially from first person. You go and you get in your ship. And from your ship, you go fly around, you kill stuff or do whatever. You go land someplace, you get out of your ship, you're still in your first person. You climb up the ladder, climb down the ladder, get out of your ship, walk onto the space station or walk onto the planet, talk to people, do stuff, come back, get back on your ship and leave. It's all very first person driven, which is really cool. That's not been done much before. and it actually looks like it's going to work properly, which has also not really been done much before. There were a few games where you could do that sort of thing, but usually it was only just, you know, within a map, or it just was not pulled off very well. So this one looks like they're actually going to mostly pull it off, and a lot of stuff, you know, from what very limited stuff we've seen in the alpha, for instance, Arena Commander, there's a lot of like little, you know, small game mechanics that we've seen, and one of them which really impressed me was just, yeah, the ability to get out of my ship. Landed on a landing platform, boop, got out of my ship, walked around my ship, which I thought was really cool, and then just to see if the game developers were on the same page as me in terms of like my thinking of what the game should do, I ran to the edge of the landing platform, kind of half expecting to, like, you know, comically just like fall from, like, you know, the normal game engine gravity, just fall infinitely. And I didn't. I ran to the edge of the platform, or I was expecting to hit an invisible wall. That didn't happen either. I ran to the edge of the platform, and just in that direction, the same direction I was going, I was just out in 0G. I was just floating away from the dock, like, oh god, and I kind of turned around, and I was like, well, let's see if they're really on the same page as me, and I pushed the walk button back, and I heard these little jets come on behind me, and I could maneuver myself around with, like, little tiny maneuvering jets in my spacesuit, and I was like, okay, you know, assuming everything gets finished, this is going to be the best game I've ever played, just based on that. I can't think of another game that allows me to get out of my ship and do EVA. I mean, and actually fight and have a cool-looking ship all at the same time. It's just the coolest damn thing I've ever seen. And that's part of the thing, too, is just sort of getting a game with a cool experience. And one of the things a lot of people whine about, again, about the game is that, oh, there's all these people that spend all this money on the game. Well, I mean, I've spent far more money than I've spent on StarCitizen, on things that I have not even used or even looked at as much. I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example of this. I mean, hell, I've got, you know, an AR-15 over there that I think I've shot twice. Spent like $300 on that. It's just sort of like just to have an A2. I mean, you know, yeah, I spent the money on it. It was a waste of money, but all this shit's a waste of money. I mean, you know, if you're gonna sit there and whine about, oh, this game's a waste of money, it's like, well, all games are a waste of money. You want to sit there and pout about how, oh my god, how dare you waste money on a game? It's like, all games are a waste of money. You want to sit there and say, okay, well, all you should be spending money on is food, roof over your head, and gas to get to work, or hell, you shouldn't even do that, you should have a bike. Then, yeah, life's boring, and you've got a big stack of money, but gee fucking whiz, that's nice. I'd like to spend my money on something that at least amuses and entertains me. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of not a waste of money if you enjoyed it, so I enjoyed it, so fuck it. But yeah. But there was also this recent little flap with The Escapist, where The Escapist kind of put out this nasty little article about how, you know, oh, we've got our quote-unquote anonymous sources who are saying that Cloud Imperium's been spending a bunch of money illegally and wasting a lot of this money, and they're out of money, and the work environment's really bad, and they're a bunch of ageist, racist fucks, and blah 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 blah. Which half of it seems to be a little bit confusingly untrue. I don't know. I mean, half the time when we see the update videos, it's kind of multicultural. You got a whole bunch of random people of different, you know, races and origins, and you've got some kind of older looking guys on staff. I mean, I don't know. It kind of seems like some of that shit might not actually be true, or maybe it's true in one of the offices. I mean, we're talking about a company with now like 200 or 300 employees stretched across the globe. They're not all going to see the boss all the time. I mean, yeah, maybe there's some shit going on, maybe there's not, but that's kind of anywhere. I mean, gee fucking whiz. As far as wasting a bunch of money on stuff, like I said, half the stuff they were complaining about wasting money on was part of the stretch goals. Now the accusation of being out of money, don't know how they could be. And all the rest of it's sort of unsubstantiated, so I don't know. It seems like they're making progress, and then what's been sort of helpful for all the people that are like, oh, they've done nothing. They've done absolutely nothing. Well, this weekend at CitizenCon, they showed off a whole bunch of brand new stuff that they've, well, not, I guess brand new, they've been working on it for a while, but they were showing off a lot of the tech demo stuff. Some new ships, new space station. Well, actually, not really any new ships. We see most of the new ships, but they were showing off all the the big space stations they were working on. They were showing off multi-crew stuff. They were announcing that basically they're going to be jumping straight into the persistent universe instead of continuing on with Arena Commander for even longer. They're basically just going to start plugging in bits of the overarching game, and they kind of set not a firm release date, but sort of this soft release date of Squadron 42 will be out next year. They didn't say when next year, just next year. Hopefully it doesn't mean later next year, but it might. But I think it kind of helps to sort of take the wind out of the sails. A lot of people would say, oh, well, nothing's being done. And it's like, well, here's a bunch of stuff that's been done. It's moving along. And another thing that I forget who mentioned it, if it was actually Cloud Imperium or somebody else, but they've actually gone back and they're rebuilding a lot of the ship assets too, again. My only big criticism of the project its entire time has been, why haven't we got the Freelancer flying? It seems like we got everybody else's ships flying. Why aren't the Freelancers flying? I want to fly my Freelancer. But I mean, it's not that big a deal.